I went there because of an Albanian that was interested, and I went there as an observer, and then I wrote the report, okay? The report, by the way, just for you and me, I don't want you to say it on the report was extremely well received. It was said by the man from the National Security Council, it was the best report he had read in the last 10 years on Albania, on the Kosovo situation, all right? The best he read in 10 years. I don't want you to say it, but that's what he said. It was highly well received, okay, throughout the State Department. And it helped the Albanian cause, okay?
Thank you. In front of us we have Mr. Gregory Lima, a political analyst, a long-time journalist all around the globe, who had to deal also with Albanian cause. He's also an author of the book called The Americani, which is wrote about an Albanian-American soldier, freedom fighter, who was fighting for Kosovo Liberation Army in Kosovo during the years of 1998-1999. So welcome, Mr. Lima.
Thank you.
First of all, we will start about you. We want to know about you. You were serving as a journalist all over the world. Your main experiences in Iran.
My main experiences in Iran, yes, and at the other edge of the old Ottoman Empire in Armenia, and at the other edge in Europe, Albania. I was interested in both edges, yes.
In 1991, you went to Albania with an Albanian-American businessman, and is that the first step that you started dealing with Albanian cause?
That's the first step that I began to see Albanians in Albania, and I was deeply impressed by the hospitality that I received, but it's more than that. How the strength of the Albanian family is what really struck me. How strong the family ties are. And more than that, how everybody in the family sort of works for the family itself to survive under the most difficult circumstances. I went up into the mountains where the fields are mostly stones, it seems to me, and how they survive there was to me very impressive. And so I had an ongoing interest in the Albanians.
So let's go further. Now, after you went in 1991 in Albania, so during the time when many of Kosovo Liberation Army soldiers were being trained there in Albania, so that was the end of 1991. After a few years started a war in Kosovo. You went in Kosovo in 1998, all right?
Yes.
Can you describe me a little bit, how was it?
I'm glad you asked that question, because that was for me decisive. I went to Albania, to Kosovo, Albania of course also, but to Kosovo under a time of duress. And I found that with all the displacement, with all of the difficulty, with difficulty of employment, that there was no beggars on the street, that everybody helped each other, and that in the face of the physical presence of the special police, the people were defiant. And it just very, very much impressed me. I absolutely was enthralled by the spirit, if you want, of the Albanian people of Kosovo.
After that, so let's talk a little bit more about the 1998 visits in Kosovo and Albania. On that time, the war started. The United States received a report after the meeting between Ambassador, I believe he was an ambassador, U.S. ambassador, and Was it Gilbert?
Christopher Hill.
No, Mr. Gilbert.
Oh.
He met President Trudeau on that time, and they came to conclusion on that time that Kosovo Liberation Army is a terrorist organization, and they are just people who are not don't even know what they want to, and no one knows them. So, and meantime, you were there and you started writing a report about Kosovo Liberation Army and also about the Kosovo situation in general.
Yes.
So, can you explain to me a little bit more, how hard was it for you as an American dealing on that time with the politics that in the United States they received official report from Mr. Gilbert that Kosovo Liberation Army is a terrorist organization, and then also later they changed their mind, of course. So how hard was it for you?
Well, I don't say it was hard. What it was is to deal with the truth, to get to the truth. And when I visited Kosovo, I was happy to meet Mr. Domaci, who arranged that I could go and see the Kosovo Liberation Army in person. And so he arranged that I could go to see Commander Remy. And so I took the journey there, and I talked to not only to the commander, but to many of the soldiers of the army who were around him. And there I met first people who believed in democracy and who were not terrorists, who were able at least to convince me, if not America, at least they could convince me that their cause was just and that they were fighting for their homes and their own people and for liberation, just what the Army said, liberation. So the L in KLA made sense to me. And that's what I wrote in the report, and it was very well received.
So that was well received in Pentagon and Department of State?
It was well received, yes. It was well received because it was maybe contrary to certain other reports they may have been getting.
Have you had contacts with Mr. Rugova on the time?
I had contact with Mr. Rugova during the visit there, yes. I had no further contact except during the time of the visit.
So, yeah. But he couldn't pursue you that Kosovo Liberation Army is a terrorist organization?
Oh, no. That was not at all the question, no.
So, we are continuing to talk again about the visit that you had in Kosovo and you met KLA. Meantime, here was circulating a report from Mr. Gilbert that Kosovo Liberation Army is a terrorist organization and we shouldn't support them. At that time, you became a winner by sending your report. On page 68, I read in your book, The Americani, that you wrote about KLA where you said KLA is okay, is not a terrorist organization. Can you explain to me, that was received well here in Washington, but how hard it was to put that report on?
Well, the question in Washington is not how decisions are made, is a question how any government makes decisions. In the United States, decisions are not only made in Congress, they're made in the executive department itself. So it's between the executive and the legislative branch. Now the executive branch includes the State Department, the Pentagon, and the National Security Council. And so in order to actually influence or help to influence a decision that you yourself as a lobbyist or whatever position you take in favor of something, you can go to the legislative branch, but it might be also effective to go into the executive branch as well. And that was what was a little bit different, that my own approach to Washington. What we did was not to stay with the legislative branch, but to move into the executive branch and to help to find out what the attitudes were and to help to correct those attitudes in the executive branch. And so my report was not to the legislature, my report was to the executive branch. And so if I was helpful at all, it was through the methods of presenting the case differently than most people do.
So basically that's where you were sure that Kosovo Liberation Army is a freedom fighters army, a army which fights for freedom and democracy. Then many years later you wrote a book, the Americani, which the main person that you wrote for is an Albanian-American freedom fighter named Agron Mirdita. Would you explain to me how was that for you, writing for an Albanian-American? In one side he's an American, and the other side he's an Albanian, and he fought for Albanian cause and Kosovo's freedom. So how would you describe his character more in your book?
Well, the reason I wrote the book, the very reason, is that he represented the best of to me, Albanian youth. Here is an American who has all the advantages of staying in America, but who answered the call. And he answered the call in a way in which he had no military training. He went there for the real simple purpose of helping his people and helping his family. And the story is, to me, something that I think every Albanian young person should read, because I think he's should be, in a sense, even a folk hero. What he did was to go there and to, it was a totally volunteer army with very little in the way of guns or anything else, even very little in the way of structure. And that anything that you could do, that was, even your commander had no real power over you, you could always decide not to, because this is a volunteer army. This is an army of handshakes. And I think that under those circumstances, only those most determined were those that could survive this, because you were put in harm's way, and really put in harm's way. And there was two choices. One choice was to run away and let the Serbs come and take it all over, and that would be the end of it. And the other choice was to stand up and actually put your life truly on the line, especially if you were on the very front line of it all. And that's what he did again and again at the front line, putting his life on the line and asking for no reward. This is the important part of it, because he left poorer than when he came. He asked for no reward, and he upon the completion of this, there was, to me, almost a terrible part of this book that I wrote here, and that is the end. At the end, he's crossing the border. The war is over, and he's crossing the border, and at the border, there's a truck after truck full of KLA coming in that were not in the war, that were in Albania during this whole time. And those that were just demobbed, if you want, just went back home. And so what was left were people who now were the police. And now maybe it worked out well, or maybe it didn't work out well. My story ends there. I know that here was this Americani, in this case. I believe that the diaspora plays a really important role in the uprising, if you want, of the war in Kosovo. It played an important role in providing the guns and ammunition and money and so on, but it also provided a role in people. And it is with no accident that when they said that the KLA was okay, that Agron, the Americani, happened to be right at the front, seeing them coming, with their flags, the jeeps that came with the flag, and permitting them to come in for the first time to see how the operation was, and talking to them. And I think the conversations that went on between the Americani and these investigators were helpful in saying, no, this is not a terrorist organization.
As a writer that knew a lot, that wrote a lot about Agron's war in Kosovo, as an American, first of all, how would you feel? Proud, terrible, sorry? How would you feel it?
About what's happened in Kosovo?
Being an American, somebody who is considered as an American that went to fight in Kosovo.
Oh, I would feel.
And how would you see him from your perspective?
From my perspective, he's a hero. He's an American hero, if you want, because let us not deny that America took the side that Agron took. So when he comes an Americani, he was really an Americani. He was the front line of the American involvement. So I'm very proud of him.
Now, you know the situation in Kosovo. You knew, you went on the ground, you saw the Kosovo Liberation Army. So many years after the war, there, after the UNMIK and later ULEX were installed, starting the political processes against the KLA commanders, KLA fighters, to put them in jail just because they fought or perhaps they killed any Secret Service officer, Yugoslav Secret Service officer, or any Serbian criminal or any paramilitary officer there during the war in Kosovo, and so they are serving jail now in Kosovo for war crimes. How do you feel that? What would you say about that, knowing KLA?
Well, from what I know of the KLA, and I am only an observer from the outside, I am not, I was never party to all of the internal discussions, but it's out of character. Because the character of the KLA, as I understand it, is based upon cultural values in which civilians are not targets. And I don't believe that Albanians would go and destroy houses and uproot families. And the same way, I just don't see how they would go after people who were not themselves in some way deeply involved or guilty of something. It's out of character. Now, maybe there were personal vendettas. Maybe there were 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. I don't know. There may have been some personal vendettas against some people. It may be. That could be a question. But I don't believe that's the character of the KLA as I understand it. And so I'm appalled by such developments.
Starting from this part, we are going to another part. You wrote another book, Journey to Macedonia. So you went in that area during the war. You went in that area during the time when the agreement was being prepared, the Ohrid's agreement. How would you explain it? It looks like Albanians were close to create a pretty strong liberation army there and trying to win their own territories, which were occupied by Macedonians. And the war stopped. The agreement was made. You were there. How would you explain this from your perspective? And I saw also in your book that you wrote a lot about the agreement.
Well, I went to Macedonia 10 years or so after the agreement went into effect to see how far it had progressed. And I find that very little progress was made. As a matter of fact, what I wrote, by the way, is basically favorable to the maintenance and to the continued existence of Macedonia. I did not write an anti-Macedonian book. I believe that if there is the only agreement that there is the Ohrid agreement, and that Ohrid agreement was paid for in blood of maybe not so many, but still it was paid for by Albanian blood. And I believe that it was supposed to be a solution by which the people of Macedonia can survive as a state. And it is not being adhered to. As a matter of fact, it's in contradiction to the agreement everywhere I went. I saw contradiction to it. And so that to sustain the Macedonian state for which this was done, to adhere to the Ohrid Agreement is a condition, or I think a sine qua non of sustaining Macedonia as a state.
Do you see, in your perspective, do you see that Albanians lost on that Ohrid Agreement? Because that's not getting in life anyway. So is not, no one is being helpful on realizing this agreement. So basically it's like status quo since then. What do you see on that point of that Ohrid Agreement?
Well, when the Ohrid Agreement was fashioned, I'm not certain that the best team was there to negotiate. And I'm not certain that the team that was there to negotiate had all of the facts even at its hands. I believe that the Macedonians were very clear at the beginning that they wanted to provide the least possible to the Albanian side, and they pretty much succeeded in doing so. With another negotiating team, maybe it might have, more may have been achieved, but that's not really the question as far as I'm concerned. Even if you got more to start off with on paper, it's still only paper. And if what is on paper right now is not being followed or realized, if you had more on paper, so what? It would be even more that is not being. So that, I don't believe that's really the question. The question is, this is what it is, and it is not being adhered to. If it was more, it would even be less that's being adhered to, probably. So at least as a first step, let's get this agreement working. And I don't see it working. And I think that the window by which of opportunity is narrowing.
Let's say you knew about the situation, how it's going on there. And Ali Ahmeti on that time, as a KLA commander, as a national army commander in Macedonia, was not even in Macedonia during the time when the agreement was prepared. So how would you describe this? Did Albanians lose a step on catching that preparation for that agreement, or were they well prepared and they knew what they are asking for?
Well, first off, I would start a little bit earlier. I don't believe that the uprising that took place in 2001 was even a planned uprising by the Albanians. I think that was already fomented and out of scoop, if you want, itself. And so I don't see a long-term plan on the part of the Albanian side. Yes, it happened, and the Albanians defended themselves. And it was mostly a defensive operation to start off with. Now, it came to a point where the guns of the Albanian guns were trained directly on the capital. And it is my belief that, having talked to the commanders of the liberation group that was in front of Scoop at the time, that it was possible that the whole government would fall. It is my understanding that an agreement was made, and it's all in the book. Anyway, I'm not saying anything that's outside the book. It's my understanding that peace was more important for the Macedonian side than for the Albanian side at this time, and that they had virtually 24 hours to do it, or there may be consequences that were not so favorable to the government. So whatever was gained or lost by this, I think that the Macedonian government gained by having the agreement at the time it did, and the agreement that it managed to end up with.
That agreement was, it looks like it was served from international community, and especially from Americans and the European Union, but mostly from Americans. But after that, the agreement was never realized, and was always a misinterpretation on that, and never fulfilled the requirements for peace. Now are the new tensions in Macedonia. What would you suggest to Albanians? How would they need to act at this time, not by fighting maybe, but the way that they are protesting, and Americans officially are supporting the peaceful protests? What would you advise them to do? How should they?
Well, I advise them to start off with being Albanian. I don't believe that being Albanian is a religious matter. I believe that to be an Albanian is one thing, and to be of a certain sect or religion is another thing. I don't think you ought to confuse the two. I believe that the best way to handle this is as Albanians. Now, I was in the revolution in Iran, and there was good reason for a revolution. Both the left and the right were very happy to have a revolution, but the revolution became the property of a religious group, and while the revolution has had many good effects, some of the poor effects are just by the fact that it is not a national uprising so much as a religious uprising, and I think that is going to that I think has affected the whole thing, and I think another revolution is at some time in the future about to happen, and that would be a shame if the Albanians did the same thing.
So basically, comparing to that, your experience in Iran and now also what is happening in Macedonia, you advise Albanians not to use any religious group to lead the protests and whatever it would be after the protests.
I believe that
the real freedom.
I believe that the best course for the Albanians is to be Albanian, is to understand their own cause. This is part of the Albanian space. This is the historic space in which Albanians have lived. To be Albanian is to have the argument that the Albanians present. It's not a religious argument. To bring the religion into it, I think, is wrong for them. I think that they have historical reasons to remain Albanian, and I think those reasons are valid. And I think that the Ohrid Agreement understands that. However, it is in execution is another story. So that the salvation for the Albanians in Albania is to be Albanian and not to bring in extraneous matters.
While let's go back to the time, at the time when you went to Kosovo. That was during the war of 1998. Kosovo Liberation Army against Serbian forces and paramilitary forces in Kosovo. So you knew the situation. You saw that American involvement, the American diplomacy was very active. They changed a little bit the habit of considering KLA as a terrorist organization after the Mr. Gilbert's report, and they considered that Kosovo Liberation Army is a freedom fighters army, but still the politic was too smooth toward the Serbs, and later the Serbs got a green light. Milosevic got a green light to detonate villages of Drenica, and the area of Dugazin. So after all that happened, was really a shaking situation, and then you helped to prepare the image of Kosovo Liberation Army, and especially before the Rambouillet talks in France in March 1999.
Yeah.
So Albanians had to agree on that, even if it was not something that they would like to, especially Mr. Damaci was against that. But still they had to agree because Americans told them to agree with it, and they accepted the agreement. But you saw the activities of Ambassador Holbrook and Ambassador Hill. They went also to Kosovo Liberation Army bases and all that. How would you describe their activity on that time?
Well, the general understanding is that more should have been done at the Daytona agreement, and it seemed to avoid totally some kind of a solution for Kosovo or Kosovo. In any case, that by it not including a decision, that is the green light that was given by not agreeing to some kind of a modus vivendi for Kosovo. Now, what was understood at that time was that unless there's a big disturbance, unless there's blood on the floor, it's settled. We don't have to worry about it. And so it became a question of whether you're going to accept the kind of an agreement that was being presented by Christopher Hill to both sides, or you're going to try to get something better for the Albanian people, which is to say some kind of a liberation if possible. And it became necessary, it seems to me, that some kind of an uprising had to be some blood on the ground. Terrible to say, but that was the kind of thing that would draw attention. And just a little bit of blood on the ground was not going to do it. And it seems, however, I'm not speaking out of turn when it's the Serbs that brought it on themselves. They should have understood very well that by being fairly mild in the period, they could have very easily avoided what became the Kosovo War. But they didn't. And it was people like Agron going there that made the difference by standing up to these guns. And so, all I mean by this is that I think that what was changed was the facts on the ground. That's what changed it, not American policy. American policy followed the facts on the ground. You want to get to here now?
Yes. We went here, but we want to go again. Back to yeah, because what I am interested to know about your book is your what do you think, how would the solution would be in Macedonia? So,
well, I believe that there is a diplomatic solution, and I am very strongly for a diplomatic solution. And if I wrote this book, it is only because I want a diplomatic solution. I believe that a outbreak of hostilities would be very destructive. I think it would be destructive to the government of Macedonia, no matter what the outcome. I think that I don't think a democracy that they hope for could survive another war like this. I think in the end, either the Albanians will win or they won't win. But whichever way it is, it wouldn't be the same Macedonia. I don't believe it could be, I just don't believe there could be a democratic outlook. I believe the chance for democracy is here and now, and I believe it ought to be taken now. I think that the window of opportunity is closing, and I think it would be a disaster for all concerned if war breaks out. But it seems to me that a war would be something that would be more interested, the Macedonians would be more interested in blaming the Albanian side for fomenting a war, and I don't believe it's in the Albanian side to even to talk in those terms. I believe time is for diplomacy. I believe it's time for the Ohrid Agreement to be implemented, and I believe that there should be concerted effort to do it. And I believe that the Albanians here in the United States should organize themselves to become a voice in Washington to urge such a development, that the development toward peace and toward an equitable solution to the agreement that they themselves helped to forge.
Let's talk about Macedonia a little bit more, since it looks like Macedonia lost the chance of having a real democracy by having issues with the name, with their neighborhoods with Greece, by having issues with implementing the Ohrid Agreement, that's a close conflict with Albanians, and by having hard time, by having difficulties to get integrated in NATO. What is going on there? How do you see Macedonia now? Should they change their habit of dealing with Albanians and also dealing with neighbors, with Greece especially, and trying to create a peace and stability in Balkans, or should they continue on this extreme politics that is not bringing anywhere?
Well, I favor peace just as a principle, and I think that war is always ugly. On the other hand, what I believe for Macedonia is that they ought to look at their own history and look at the history of that state and how it was created and out of what it was created. And this is a state of many, many parts, of many, many nationalities. And I think that everybody likes to say, oh, look at Switzerland. I think that there's a tremendous opportunity on the part of the Macedonians to become what is called a Macedon in French anyway, is a thing of many parts. And I think that there is a very right-wing Macedonian party or group that I think is not in the best interests of the country. I would like to see a more conciliatory thing, to a picture of a Macedonia that is open to everybody, free to everybody, and truly democratic, and with a devolution of power from the center, which is one of the things that was fought so assiduously by the Macedonian group, that it had to be central power and no devolved power. And I believe that in a democracy, a distribution of the powers would be more in accord with what the Macedonians themselves might consider to be the future of their own state.
Let's talk also a little bit about the book, the Americani, which you wrote about the Kosovo Liberation Army, and especially for Agron Mirdita, who fought in Kosovo Liberation Army. And on the other side, I see a poem written about Agron Mirdita, written from Javad Limani, an actor and writer from Albania, from Macedonia, more truly to say. So, how is this book going?
Book is going well, and to which I have the highest respect for Mr. Limani and his energy. What he has done as as he's now an American citizen, but he had a very distinguished career in Europe, out of Macedonia, and I believe that what he has tried to achieve while he was here is an organization of the in the United States that does honor to somebody like Agron Mirdita, the kind of people who believe in Albania and believe that that their activity on behalf of the Albanians is also good for America. And so I have high respect for him, very, very high respect for him, and I'm so happy that he has this poem in this book.
Thank you. And also, last question would be about Albanians in general. You dealt with the situation. We know the situation in Preševa Valley is still occupied territories by the Serbs there.
Yes.
We know the situation in northern part of Kosovo, especially in Mitrovica, Zvečan, Zubin Potok, which the Serbian parallel structures and Serbian Secret Service and police are operating there. And we know the situation in Chameria with Greece, and all over looks like Balkan will not getting stabilized without solving Albanian cause, Albanian issue. What would you consider for Albanians is the best way to create a peace and stability in Balkans? Would it be united in their own territories, or should they create many states in neighborhood countries?
Well, you know, you can talk in theory about what is practical. What is practical is the facts on the ground again. If I look at the facts on the ground, I see the longer a group like those in, let's say, Montenegro stay, they become somewhat different in terms of their outlook than those in Albania or in Kosovo. They have to support different kinds of organizations, and they have a different reality. So I believe that at this moment there are maybe 5 Albanias. And I don't say that the Albania in Albania is even the major Albania. The major Albania, for all I know, is in Greece, for all I know, all right? What I mean by that is that there's a series of histories that are different facts on the ground, but it's the same people. And so long as the Albanians are Albanians, then I believe that there's maybe, at this moment, because of the past history since 1912 or even earlier, that there's maybe right now even 5 Albanias. And I don't say which one is the top one. So I could see some kind of a federation of Albanians, Albanian states. But then again, it's the facts on the ground that will decide what it is, and not some theoretician who's sitting here in front of a camera talking.
Just considering the situation in northern part of Kosovo, which is factically, that part is in reality is occupied by the Serbs, and there are operating the Serbian structures being paid by Belgrade. What would you consider there? Should there be any solution to send out, to kick out Serbian paramilitary forces from northern part of Kosovo and save the integrity of Kosovo, or should they do territorial exchanges which would create a new conflict in Balkans?
I don't believe in a territorial exchange, although it's always one possibility one might explore. I believe that the agreement that led to the independence of Kosovo did not include a separate Mitrovica. It just didn't include it. And I think that is a development that has gone contrary to the whole spirit of what was agreed to. Just as the Ohrid Agreement had one spirit and something else has come out of it, I don't believe that that was part of the, I don't believe that was forecast or seen as part of the agreement to which the Albanians gave their lives, all right? In any case, what is going to be the answer to this is that should Mitrovica keep on saying what it is, why not look at Macedonia and see the Albanians asking for the same in Macedonia as what the Serbs want in Mitrovica? If that happens, they would be destroying the state of Macedonia, so they're saying. So why would it not destroy the state of Kosovo? Why would it not be? So I think that they're talking from two sides of their mouth at the same time. So I would rather see, again, a negotiated and a diplomatic solution in which I do not believe that the way the condition is going, it was pre-seen in the agreement that was made.
As far as I see, you are one of the first Americans that wrote a book about a KLA soldier who is really telling the reality and who is telling the real face of Kosovo Albanian soldier who fought in Kosovo, who went from the United States of America. And the other book is Journey to Macedonia, which deals a lot with, has to deal a lot with the situation in Macedonia, which is always actuality, conflict. There is never getting the time like post-conflict, but always is a conflict present. Which is going to be your next book?
If you want to know what I've been talking about, I'd like to do a book on Mr. Limani as an actor, for one thing. There's also another book which I've been discussing with him, and that is I'm interested in the Albanians that following Castriotti went to Calabria and went to Sicily. I'd like to do a book on how they managed to remain Albanian and what was changed of what is the Albanian character. I'd like to do a study of that part of the world, and I think it could be very interesting for those of us in other parts of the diaspora, and I think it's very, very interesting to the Albanians themselves to see what the development of what is the Albanian values as against other countries, and how it developed when they said and remained in language and in culture Albanian.
Our conversation, it's very hard to get ended up, but let's see by the end now. The question would be, looking at your past, you studied a lot about Ottoman Empire and Armenia and also Albania. So how would you see nowadays the influence of Turkey? Should Albanians get more involved with Turkish politics, or should Albanians get more involved in trying to get integrated in European Union by being supported?
I believe that's a...
These are supporter of the United States, same as Turkey and European Union. So what would you...
I like the question. I believe, to start off with, that the Albanians are a European people, an indigenous European people. They are more European than the Turks will be, more European than any of the, well, unless you want to take the Slavs as part of Europe also. But I believe it's a European nation. And I believe its most important orientation is toward Western Europe. Naturally, they should be toward Western Europe. And what develops ties toward Western Europe is, to me, more important than ties to the Ottoman Empire, which was very, very delayed in giving them their freedom. I don't see any think that they should be too grateful to the Ottoman Empire or to its successors. I believe that it was greatly delayed, and I believe that the future of Albania and the Albanian people lies with the West. And I think that's the correct, from my perspective, development for them, the orientation.
Another thing, you were helping and to create Kayana newspaper in Iran.
Yes.
On that time. That's an American newspaper which had a lot of influence on Iranian people to know more about America, to have more ties with the United States of America. Would it be a good thing to do also in Albania or Kosovo?
Well, I think so. If I were a younger man, it might be an interesting project. What I was able to do in Iran was to talk about what was happening in the country in a way in which it was knowledgeable or it was understandable to a wider audience. First in the Middle East and to a still wider audience. I believe that what is happening in Kosovo could be part of international news, and I would like to see it. It would be a pleasure if I could do it, but certainly I think it's open to whoever will take that entrepreneurial step to an English language paper that talked in terms of the country, but talks international language and followed all of the trends, no matter where they are and what they are, how they're going.
Mr. Lima, thank you for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you, and really thank you for your time and for your whatever you did for to bring a clear picture for Albanian people, and especially for Kosovo Liberation Army, as for our friend Agron Mirdita. We really loved, we read the book and we loved the book. So thank you for your time. It was Mr. Gregory Lima who wrote the book, the Americani. The book is written about a Kosovo Liberation Army soldier, Agron Mirdita. And also on the other side you have a poem for Agron Mirdita. He's an Albanian American who fought in Kosovo. He's not the only one, but he's one of the first Albanians who went from the United States of America to fight in Kosovo. Also the next book of Mr. Lima that has to deal with the Balkans is Journey to Macedonia. Mr. Lima is the person who knows a lot about the situation in Balkans, and especially that he had to deal a lot with Albanian cause. And the next book, as he told us, would be again about the Albanian history and about an Albanian actor. So, Mr. Lima, we really thank you and we wish you a good luck.
It's my pleasure, very much so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Librin e Gregory Limas dhe Amerikani, të cilën kemi punu gati 2 vite tani po punojmë. Si ide, fillimisht ka ardhur nga Gregory, pasi që Gregory kishte lexuar në artikuj të shtypin amerikan për mua, dhe në gjatë disa kontakte që ka bërë me Xhevat Limonin, kanë ardhur deri në përfundim që ta bëjnë një vepër për ushtrisjen e Kosovës, kështu që kam vendosur në mes tregimit tim ta bëjnë edhe Gregory e ka quajtur në atë mënyrë Agron Mirdita, ushtrisja e Kosovës dhe selimi i Kosovës. Ky është titulli i librit Gregory. Disa Xhevati ka vendosur që të bëjë një poem Pritat e Vidita, poem i ftohtë që ka Agron Mirdita. Gregory ka bërë një raport, ka qenë disa herë në Kosovë, ka bërë një raport shumë të rëndësishëm për Kosovën, për, domethënë, që të ka kërkuar Departamenti i Shtetit, Pentagoni dhe Departamenti i Shtetit të Amerikës. Në raport është kërkuar nga Gregory dhe që të shpjegohet nëse Amerika do të ndërhynte ushtarakisht në Kosovë, a do të ketë nevojë që Amerika ta mbajë dëherë Kosovën. dhe ka kërkuar që të informacioni se a ka mundësi që faktori shqiptar politik, shqiptar të unifikohet, të ulit në tavolinë. Gregory ka ardhur me James Griffin, kolonel i dalur nga West Pointi, ka ardhur në Kosovë dhe është takuar me gjithë faktorët në Kosovë, duke filluar me ushtrisë të Kosovës, është takuar me komandantërimin dhe ushtarët në zonën e Llapit, është takuar me faktorë politik, me Rrugull, me Qosjen, me Dëmaqin, dhe ka ardhur në përfundim se Kosova ka mundur të ekzistojë prej viteve 90-ta, gjatë viteve 90-ta, në okupim e ka mbajtur arsimin nëpërmjet diasporës, nëpërmjet ndihmave, nëpërmjet vetë organizimit janë organizuar dhe e kanë mbajtur shtetin, në fakt edhe në okupim. Kështu që Kosova, në raport e ka paraqitur se Kosova e ka mundur të mbajt dhe mund të ekzistojë. Ndërsa sa i përket pjesës së dytë, unifikimit dhe a ka mundësi që shqiptarët të ulen pasi që ka qenë problemi numër 1, që se ne kanë pas Amerikanët dhe miqtarën evropian, ka qenë a mundet me ullë gjithë në tavolinë me folë një zëri. Gregu ka në përfundim pasi taku me gjithë, ka në përfundim se në Kosovë gjithë flasin për pavarësinë e Kosovës, çdo njeri lufta e ushtrisë ndërkombëtare Kosovës është për pavarësinë e Kosovës dhe në Kosovë nuk ka kolaboracionist në aspektin siç ka pas në lufta të tjera, njerëz që kanë dalë haptas, kanë luftu, kanë ushtri, kanë formuar ushtri, me luftu kundër bashkëpunim me amikun kundër ushtrisë ndërkombëtare të tjera në botë. Kështu që raporti është mirëpritur shumë mirë në Pentagon dhe pasi që Gregu ka qenë njohës i mirë i shqiptarëve dhe studiues i gjeshtë Kastrit dhe Skënderbeut, ka vendosur që ta bëj këtë libër për ushtrisë ndërkombëtare Kosovës për shqiptarët në përgjithësi. Dhe kështu kemi ardhur deri te fillimi i bisedave. Unë e kam pa që jam pajtu me shumë gjëra që ai në bisedat që kemi biseduar, jam pajtu me shumë gjëra që i kam lexuar shkrimet e tina dhe mund të them ka pëlqyer më shumë se çdo njeri që kam biseduar, pasi që kam pasur të tjerë autorë që më kanë kërkuar me vol libër, ndoshta 10 vite ka pasur që më kanë kërkuar. Ju ka pëlqyer personazhi, ju ka pëlqyer ngjarjet që kanë dëgjuar, kështu që por e vendosë që të bëjmë me Gregun. Kemi biseduar nga një javë, kena mbajt një javë ose 2 javë, kena mbajt nga një takim 4-5 orë dhe kemi fol për kohë të caktuar. Pastaj në përfundim unë e kam shkruar me një lezetare që si novelë të vogël, ja kam përkthy dhe ja kam dhënë Gregut që ta ketë kronologji ngjarjeve. Dhe domethënë prej aty ka ardhur e ka bërë veprën dhe Amerikani.